The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
NBG is moving ahead with the CBDC project and will introduce a limited access live pilot environment to test the CBDC system technology capabilities and potential application areas through the set of use cases. NBG has shortlisted 9 companies that have demonstrated sufficient technology potential, maturity, capacity, relevant experience, and desire to join our on-field exploration. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili on Thursday said Russia had unilaterally resumed direct flights with Georgia in May and no formal talks had been held on the topic with Moscow in response to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's comments on the topic earlier this week. In his comments, Garibashvili claimed there was nothing scandalous in the statement, as both resumption of direct flights and the cancellation of visa requirements required approval by the Georgian government. The price of oil in the global market is characterized by an upward trend. On international exchanges, the price of a barrel of oil has increased by an average of 13% in 1 month, and currently the price of Brent reaches 94 USD and the price of WTI is within 91 USD, which is a 1-year maximum. As for the Georgian market, fuel price increased in the range of 4 to 10 tetri and exceeded 3 lari. In January-August 2023, chocolate and cocoa containing food product exports from Georgia hit a record high. Products of 586 tons, 2,789,000 USD worth were exported from Georgia. According to the National Statistics Office of Georgia, chocolate exports have increased by 76% compared to the previous year. However, it should be noted that the share of local exports in the exporting figure is only 31%, and the remaining 69% accounts for exports. The main exporting market for Georgia is Armenia, which accounts for 46% of total exports. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Gvangilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. Paweł Herczyński, ambassador of the European Union to Georgia, hopes that the IMF program will be restored for Georgia. He told this after his meeting with Natia Turnava, NBG acting governor. Herczyński notes that the IMF program would help to continue smoothly the cooperation and direct support to Georgia. According to Herczyński, he discussed the latest events around the National Bank of Georgia. On his part, the ambassador has stressed the key importance of the NBG as a strong and independent professional state institution, and especially noted the need for macroeconomic stability for all beneficiaries of EU assistance, especially now when in a month the European Commission will issue its first enlargement report on Georgia. One of the 12 priorities, namely the priority number 2, speaks specifically about strong state institutions. The ambassador sincerely hopes that the IMF program will be restored, and that would help us to continue smoothly the cooperation and direct support to Georgia. Giorgi Kakauridze, Deputy Minister of Finance, confirmed that the International Monetary Fund program has been suspended since June. As he said during the meeting with the parliamentary political group Reform Group, the suspension of the IMF program is related to the issues of the National Bank, but not to the order issued on September 19. According to the First Deputy Minister of Finance, the International Monetary Fund will resume the program before the end of this year. However, if the IMF decides to terminate the program, it will create some problems with other financial institutions of Georgia. As Kakauridze said, the suspension of the program is related to the issues of the National Bank, but not specifically to the order, and I cannot give you an answer as to exactly why it was suspended. Kakauridze said, "We should receive a specific answer from the IMF. I may know a lot of things, but I can't answer for the IMF," he added. As for the expectations from other financial institutions, according to him, he does not think that Georgia will have any kind of delay with any financial institution in getting the funds. As Kakaudze explained, if in the end the IMF not only suspends but terminates the program and declares that the macroeconomic stability of Georgia is in danger, in this case it may create a certain threat to attracting credits from other financial institutions. We don't have a program. We will have to prove to all financial institutions one by one that we have macroeconomic stability. The IMF is proof of this. When we have an IMF program, it means that the macroeconomic stability of this country is good, said Giorgi Kakaudze. Now we will turn to an important I-5 for Georgia, that is ADB. Giorgi Sagadze conducted an interview with two of its representatives for the checkpoints.
Thank you so much for this time and opportunity. My pleasure hosting you again. Susan, it's a pleasure hosting you here in our office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being with us. So we have a news, GCAP bond, so it's fantastic news, and thank you so much for being involved. Well, generally, for helping us and assisting Georgia as much as you can in developing capital market here. So could you be so kind to tell us more about the characteristics of the bonds? What are such exceptional interest coming from strategic investors? Because for Georgia, you are definitely considered as such.
No, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here and talking about this very important topic. I think sustainability-linked bonds and green bonds, all kinds of different bonds, I think is very important for the development of the capital markets. As you rightly pointed out, we're very pleased to be here with the Asian Development Bank, having played a very active role in the development of Georgia's capital market through ESG theme bonds, supporting the first green, gender, sustainability-linked bonds, and within Georgia and the Caucasus. So it's a very important tool that we find for developing the markets and helping with that increasing interest into the area, but also with a strong sponsor like Georgia Capital. They are very clearly committed to, climate change. They have very clear through the bonds themselves. They have very clear sustainability-linked features. For example, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by 2027. So, this is part of the group's greater initiative of going to net zero. So, we're very excited to be part of this.
Very good. We had an opportunity talking about green bonds just a few months ago, but at the same time, as Susan mentioned about the local market issuers and investors, how they may benefit from such activities as we face right now. This question both to you, and it's up to you whom will respond, because at the same time, from such an unprecedented level of investors happening in this particular deal.
No, I'll hand over to David, but what's interesting about this is that, ADB has been involved in the issuance of bonds for quite a number of years. And initially you're starting for offshore and then to onshore as the market has been developing. So I think that this is a particularly exciting aspect of it. And as the climate objectives of the countries and companies involved, because we clearly know that there is a climate imperative out there. So when you're able to actually create new financial instruments to help create markets and interest, I think that's really, important part of the development. And maybe if I can, David, if you wanted to step in.
Sure. As Susan mentioned, actually, so ADB has been very active, especially in the last 4 years, helping to develop the ESG bond market, especially with green, gender, sustainability-linked bonds. And this has really helped two things. On the one hand, to strengthen the ability of issuers to tap additional options for capital, especially putting in mind sustainability in their agenda, but also for investors, creating opportunities for investors to actually invest in different instruments. This particular transaction is definitely a landmark transaction for the capital markets of Georgia. We are proud of the journey and now coming to this point. It was a $150 million bond, sustainability-linked bond, that actually has been issued. This is the largest corporate bond ever listed in the Georgian Stock Exchange. There's a number of strategic investors, including ADB, And what is very remarkable is that over 275 different investors actually participate in the transaction. And that means that out of the 150 million transaction, there were around 83 million coming directly from non-IFI's private sector investors. That means that more investors within Georgia actually had the opportunity to be part of this transaction. Just to be a bit of perspective, when it comes to a Eurobond that is listed in a European stock exchange, typically the minimum ticket size is around $200,000. So that's actually make it very unaffordable for the average Georgian. But here, when it's listed in the Georgian stock exchange, the first ticket is around $1,000. That means that more people can actually participate and diversify their investments.
If I got you correctly, what are some of the key elements that we can expect to observe in deals funded by yourself?
Well, I think that's, again, a great question, because I think that the whole idea when you're looking at these kinds of bonds is the fact that they have certain criteria that you put in them. And so it creates an accountability. It requires, that the company itself is able to monitor this and then report on that. Because again, you hear lots of discussions that because the market is developing on climate generally, you don't want to get into greenwashing and all these kinds of stuff. So it creates an accountability, and also for them to report on these things. It's a very important aspect. And also, as David was saying, when you have 55% of the investors in this coming from the commercial banks and commercial investors, I think it's treading new territory in the market itself and also with investors. So I think it's very exciting times.
Which means that Georgia is making first steps
Absolutely.
on the international capital market.
Correct.
At the same time, going back to your responding in these regards, do you have any market development initiatives in the pipeline? If we can suggest, because I remember our last meeting and interview, the BMG, you were talking about ESG, green bonds, but at the same time highlighting how actively Georgian capital market is developing. So please.
No, we're very proud to be within the region, and Georgia and the Caucasus. It's an important part of what we're doing in Asian Development Bank. I'm also here to to be part of the head of our annual meeting. So we know that in May of next year, our annual meeting will be taking place here. So we're very keen to work with businesses, and we hope to have quite a few more announceables at that time, announcing new investments. Obviously, part of this, we're very interested in the climate angle from renewable energy, from financial institutions, from an agribusiness point of view, and in looking all across the various value chains and sectors. We are looking very actively at trying to facilitate this and obviously showcase Georgia.
And if I can add to that, I think something that the market has really noticed in terms of ADB, we really position ourselves as a partner with our clients, a partner, of course, of the country and a partner of our own clients. And we like to really co-create opportunities. We understand that the path only has one direction, which is ahead. With the annual meeting coming up, of course, we are working on a number of sectors, but the idea is to really be co-creators of these opportunities. So actually, at the end of the day, the country itself and the society themselves can actually benefit from the development mandate that ADB has.
Well, good luck, and while suggesting and having such an important annual meeting for 2024 and announcing that a lot of things will be developed before then, good luck with all your further initiatives, and good luck to Georgia as well.
No, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here, and for us, the private sector, and helping to develop that in Georgia and other economies in the region is very important, because we know it's the driver of change. It's the driver of employment. By far, the majority of the employment comes from the private sector, and we know that when you're looking at things from a climate perspective, by far the most innovation as well as finance will come from the private sector. So we're very much oriented and supportive of that.
Which means that green and ESG will be set as a top priority.
Absolutely, absolutely.
In Georgia as well.
In Georgia as well.
Georgia and beyond.
Yes, exactly. ADB wants to be has aspirations to be the climate bank, and so with that being the trusted partner to, as David said, to co-create opportunities, looking to the future, to creating those those opportunities so that, in the end, it supports the economy and the people there.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And one news from yet another important I-5 for Georgia, EBRD. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development on Wednesday raised its growth forecast for this year in its regions emerging Europe, Central Asia and North Africa. The gross domestic product of the EBRD regions, which covers nearly 40 economies, is projected to grow 2.4% in 2023, a 0.2 percentage point up for the region compared to its May forecast, the bank said in a report. This stemmed from large upward revisions in Turkey and Central Asia, partially offset by weaker growth outlook in emerging Europe, it said. Economic growth is expected to pick up to 3.2% in 2024 as inflationary pressures gradually subside. The figure was revised downwards by 0.2 percentage point from the previous report due to the base effect of higher growth expected in 2023. The robust growth of the economies of Central Asia and the weaker performance of those in Central Europe and the Baltic states reflect the different consequences of energy prices, inflation, and shifting patterns of trade, said Beata Javorik, the EBRD's chief economist. Growth in Central Europe and the Baltic states is expected to come in at 0.5% in 2023 and accelerate to 2.5% in 2024. The GDP in Central Asia is projected to rise by 5.7% this year and 5.9% next year. In battle, Ukraine's GDP is foreseen to rise 1% this year, reflecting a sharp year-on-year contraction in the first quarter. The war-hit economy is projected to grow 3% in 2024. The bank projected the Russian economy grow by 1.5% in 2023 and 1% in 2024. GDP growth in Turkey, the largest recipient of EBRD funds, was revised up by 0.1 percentage point to 3.5% in 2023, reflecting pre-election fiscal stimulus, though growth is expected to slow in the second half of the year. The Turkish economy is forecast to grow 3% next year. 500 Georgia Acceleration Program and the future of startups in Georgia and worldwide. The checkpoints gathered valuable recommendations from Pedro Vieira, 500 Global Director of Operations and Startup Programs.
Pedro, thank you so much for your time, for being with us. Always a pleasure hosting you.
Always a pleasure being here.
It's been several years since the first inaugurative batch, let me say so, of 500 Georgia. How it goes in general. So I need some feedback from you in this regard.
Yeah.
And please share it with me and with our audience.
Very, very good journey so far. So it's
Okay.
been like 5 years. We are doing our 5th batch now of 500 Georgia. We've trained more than 60 companies and accelerated them right now.
It's already 60.
Yeah, close to that number.
Wow.
More than 10 countries in the mix, more than 10 different industry verticals, and the companies are starting to demonstrate the first results, so we're very happy. Right, as of today, 500 Georgia is known in the wide region as the hub where these things are happening and the acceleration program is taking place. So we're very happy of where we got the brand to and of all the things we've been able to build with the partnership that we have with the Bank of Georgia and the government.
Tell me and correct me if I'm wrong, the 5th batch, it's going to be beginning just a few days ago.
It's starting now. It's starting this week, yes.
And can you tell me about the expectations? Do you think that something's going to be definitely changed, including from founders on this stage? How do you evaluate the progress that we faced during last 5 years?
Yeah. There's few things that are always core that we look for and we expect from the founders. We expect them to be very resilient because we know this is a long journey to build a company. We want them to be solving a big problem that a very large number of people are willing to pay to see solved because that represents the size of the market opportunity. We want them to be ambitious enough to be building companies that have regional, if not global, scale, and that can scale fast. So these things we've looked in the previous batches, we'll continue looking in the following batches. These days, especially with the state of the global economy and the extra challenges that we know founders are facing to raise, and some of them to do business development, we also pay extra attention to their financial situation and how cash-wise they are and how smart they are in managing their resources.
These are your advices, like in advance.
There are already there are definitely some of the things that they need to look for when they apply. We always, like I said, we always look for people that are solving big problems. The solution they have today may be different than the solution they have tomorrow. So we're more interested in the founders and their capabilities sometimes than the product itself.
Great. Tell me about, you mentioned about resilience and some other things. Tell me about effectiveness, how it's measured. So can we more or less evaluate the effectiveness of this period and at the same time effectiveness of your investment?
Yes.
During our past years already, so please.
Yes, for sure. So the effectiveness of our investment can be measured in different time scales. Mm-hmm. The effectiveness of the investment itself and the financial returns that we expect from these investments take many years to come back. And so we don't have an exact figure for how much we can profit from having invested in these companies. We know from the first batches where the Bank of Georgia invested directly in the companies that the amount of capital that those companies raised was tenfold the amount that the bank invested initially within a period of around 12 months of graduating from the program. So that's one of the metrics that's been public, and it's impressive. For the most recent batches, we don't have the data yet. We see the companies grow their revenue. We see the companies increasing their amount of hires, which is an important measurement for the social impact that this program has in the region. We see the companies scaling cross-border. Even during the program, they come in as a company that's already winning in their local market, and during the program they immediately scale to more than one country in the region. So all these things we see happening, and that's one of the main reasons why we do the acceleration program here.
But at the same time, to have a bit broader, bigger picture, do you consider expanding to the east while having operational headquarters here in Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about east specifically. We want to work in a much broader region, east and west. The program in the investments that we do actually capture companies from a group of more than 20 countries. Whoa. So it's Central Asia, Caucasus, and then Eastern Europe, Baltics. And so we want to continue working in partners in this broad region. That means that we will continue doing what we usually do of training the founders, but also training investors, training accelerator managers, training public officials in this broad region, because we know that if we do those things in this broad region, again, we are creating the conditions for the program that we run in Georgia to be more successful and more fruitful.
Pedro, could you be more specific? I'm going back to the investment issue coming last 5 years from your side and stakeholders. Some more details about investment coming from the fund. Can we put some figures and be more specific in this regard?
Yeah, so going back to the previous statistics, so the Bank of Georgia invested about $1 million in the companies directly in the first two batches. Okay. Since then, we've done, with the batch that's starting now, we've done 35 new companies. And in those 35 new companies, we invested $100,000 per company. And so that's one of the input measures of what's been done in terms of investment. And then the companies, like I said, are now starting to demonstrate growth in their sales and in their scale cross-border. Okay. And one traditional question, just to resume our interview, coming from my colleague, George Aronia, who's been interviewing you yes.
From previous times. Why applicants why applicants should, or just founders, I mean, should participate, should apply for 500 Georgia again and again. And what's your message?
Yes.
2023.
2023. Exactly. So the first one important piece of information for the founders that are listening is now 500 Georgia takes applicants year round. So even though we will do 2 batches per year as before, we are looking continuously at applications and at companies that are interested in our program and in our possible investment. So people can apply all year round now. What we think, we tell them that it's worth applying because
in previous times it was limited periods where they could apply.
We've been doing it for about 4 to 6 weeks before the start of each program. So it's usually been around February, March. We've had applicants, and then around July, August, we've had applicants for the second batch.
I got you.
But now we have the applications. The website is open all year long, and everyone can apply at any given point in time, and we're continuously reviewing the applications. But what I was saying, in that process of applying, we ask a series of questions, and in the interviews, we ask a series of questions that help the founders learn more about what they are doing themselves. And in the process of filing one application for one batch, they actually sometimes realize they're not ready for that batch, but they learn a few things. And when they apply for the batch that follows, there will be a much stronger application. They will have a much stronger application. There will be a stronger company. And in fact, in this batch, you have such an example that there's 2 companies in this batch that had applied before. They were not ready at the time. We had rejected them, and they came back with more interesting metrics, with more interesting developments. And now we're convinced this is the right time for them to enter the program, and we accepted them, and we're going to invest in these companies.
Fantastic example. Thank you, and good luck to you and all participants, founders, who is going to be 500 Georgian on these bets.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here and talk about 500 Georgia.
Now let us turn to business directly and see what the week looked like for the private sector. Natia Taktakishvili will tell us more.
Demand for expensive brands has grown in Georgia due to the increased purchasing power of customers. The head of communications service of Galleria Tbilisi says that despite the income surge, there is a slight decrease in the number of customers compared to the last year. According to Nini Aduashvili, sales have increased by 10-15% compared to the previous year. As she notes, their customers prefer expensive brands, so they are counting on this part. During the last 3 months, 1.5 million people visited Galleria Tbilisi. The figure hit a record high, although it's a decrease of about 20% compared to the previous year. About 70% are local customers, while 30% accounts for tourists. Recently, we can say that the demand for high-price segment brands and products have increased, says Nino Aduashvili. The shopping center Galleria Tbilisi, built on Rustaveli Avenue in Tbilisi, was opened by Bidina Ivanishvili's co-investment fund in November 2017. Co-investment fund began construction of 25,000 square meter multifunctional shopping mall in 2015. The total investment amounts to $97 million. Construction of White Cells project in Batumi was finished in cooperation with Bazisbank. The contemporary complex is suitable for both comfortable living and recreation, as well as investment in real estate. The financial support of Bazisbank allowed us to complete the complex in a short period of time and transfer ownership of the apartments to their owners. During the crisis, when we needed the support of a strong financial institutions, Bazisbank was one of the first to stand by us and provide us with a credit line. Natia Gogidze, director of AR Meridian, said White Cells is located in the first coastal strip in the territory of New Boulevard and covers a total area of 30,000 square meters. The multifunctional complex includes 4 apartments, high-class residential houses, Sea Home Batumi, a premium-class multifunctional boutique housing, and 2 high-class branded hotels, Ibis Batumi, and 5-star investment project, the Grandeur Hotel. The construction of White Cells complex started in 2016. The amount of the investment is quite impressive and amounts up to $60 million. Valery Checheria, director of Rooms Hotel, declares that the 5th room hotel will be opened in Abastumani in 2024. The main direction of the hotel will be holistic and healing, where the detox procedures will take place. As Valery Checheria notes, the hotel chain already includes 4 facilities in Georgia, so the company can offer a tour in Rooms hotels. According to him, there is no seasonality in any hotel or rooms, and they are busy almost around the year. We are planning to open Rooms Abbas Soumani next year. It will be another beautiful hotel, the main direction of which will be holistic healing and detox. In 2024, we will already receive vacationers. Valery Checheria explains. The managing director of the Rooms Hotel, Levan Berulava, also talks about the future projects of Rooms Hotel, noting that Rooms Bakuriani will be opened this year with a spa and pool. Rooms Hotel unites hotels in Tbilisi, Khazbegi, Bakuriani and Batumi. Dried fruit company Chikori plans to deliver and process 1,000 tons of fruits this year. Director of the company, Ananu Bejanishvili, says that Chikori is planning rebranding, productivity growth, adding a new assortment and exports to the USA. We are planning to launch a new line, a healthy snack. We also want to increase production and sales both in the existing market as well as exporting markets. We have received FDA certificate and are actively working to enter the USA market, Bejanishvili said. In addition, Ananu Bejanishvili spoke about the challenges and noted that the marketing expenses required by the chain stores in the local market are significantly affecting Georgian production. The marketing expenditures are a very big challenge which significantly harm Georgian production. They force us to increase prices, which in fact makes it impossible to compete with imported products, she said. Kareli-based fruit company Chikori has been operating in the Georgian market since 2015 and employs over 70 people. Chikori products are sold in Carrefour, Goodwill, Agrofarm, Spar, Nikora, Ioli, Europroduct and other store chains. Hotels located in Kakheti are preparing for the most important period of the year. Winter has already started in the region, and this affects the occupancy rate of the hotels every year. Some of the hotels declare that the bad weather has affected the activity of vacationers. The manager of the Chateau Qiramala Lagodekhi told BMDG that the demand for vacationers has decreased due to the natural disasters. According to him, the occupancy rate of the hotel is low this year compared to the previous one. This year, Kakheti region has a shortage of guests. Recently, the demand for recreation in the region has decreased due to the natural disasters in Georgia. Unfortunately, we still depend on the weather. At the moment, our occupancy rate has reached 70%, although we are expecting a much more active September. Again, due to the bad weather, we didn't have a high workload. We are expecting up to 90% load in the month of August, but this figure reached 40%, notes Tornike Labuchidze. Bias Wine declares that more than 70% of production is exported. Since 2017, Bias Wine is exported to 15 countries. Speaking about the first steps, winemaker Baya Abuladze notes that attending festivals is very important, noting that from 2015 until today, they have gone through various stages in order to sell the wine abroad. The first stage was production sustainability. We worked a lot on that. The second stage was the exports. More than 70% of our products is exported to 15 countries since 2017. The third stage was involvement in tourism, and we started this stage from 2018. Tourism and culinary tours, by Abuladze said. According to her, American and Singaporean customers don't know who is making wine. They appreciate taste, quality and stability of the product. As she notes, Bias Wine is made with the traditional method, which causes great interest among foreign customers. At this stage, Bias Wine is exported to America, European Union countries, Northern Europe countries, Great Britain, Ireland, Asia countries, China, Japan, Singapore and South Korea. Mamuka Mikashavidze, the founder of Mariculture Georgia, declares that aquaculture is developing quite hard in Georgia and the state must take clear steps. First of all, he mentions the issue of setting up the necessary infrastructure in order to avoid the lack of access to the breeding farms. The state has allocated areas for mariculture and aquaculture, but this sector is developing very hard because there is no proper infrastructure. Although the areas have been allocated, there are no ports where the ship will stop and the sailors will get at the breeding farms. The fish, of course, need food. These farms are located about 2 kilometers from the shore. Therefore, it's necessary to arrange access infrastructure, says the founder of Mariculture Georgia. Mamuka Mikashawidze also points out that a private investor will not be able to arrange the infrastructure because the state is not issuing a permit for it. The second important challenge is the insecurity of the sea, in particular the fact that there is no structure to control the incidents at this, including stealing. Until these issues are not solved, this sector will not be able to develop. Either investors will come nor the number of farms will increase, Mamuka Mikashawidze said. TAV Urban Georgia operator Tbilisi International Airport published its annual financial report for 2022. According to the document, last year the income received by the airport increased by 70 million lari, amounting to 134 million lari. The profitability of TAV Georgia improved dramatically. The airport earned a net profit of 170 million lari last year, which was an increase of 42 million lari in 2022. The airport served more than 3 million passengers, which was an increase of 78% year-over-year, although it was down by 90% from pre-pandemic 2019. The main source of revenue for Tbilisi Airport is the airport fee, which totals to $24 per passenger. TAV Urban Georgia is a member of TAV Airports Holding, which started operating in Georgia in 2005 and will carry out its activity until 2027.
Last week, the Women in Tech CCA Awards ceremony was held in Tbilisi. As a part of the ceremony, several exceptional women have been awarded in a few categories, such as the Global Leadership Women in Tech Award, the Most Impactful Initiative Award, and the Women in Web3 Award. PMG's Business Evening host, Georgia Ronia, had a chance to talk to the founder and CEO of Women in Tech, Ayumi Moore Aoki, about the initiative and how it is developing in Georgia.
Ayumi, hi. Thank you very
Hello.
much for your time. It's a pleasure to have you here in Georgia to talk about women empowerment.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back in Georgia, a country that I love.
That's very nice to hear. Ayumi, the first question I'd like to ask you is about, it's a very global question. It's about women in tech in general. As I read, your mission is to empower 5 million women and girls by 2030. So let me ask, how are you going to accomplish this? What are your concrete plans to do that?
So we focus on 4 main areas. The first is education. The second is digital inclusion. The third is entrepreneurship. And the fourth is advocacy. Because we feel that we have to find solutions and programs in all these areas so that we can really make a change. So obviously first is education. I think it speaks by itself. We have many different educational programs that we do internally ourselves, but also with many partners like Binance Charity, which has helped us put together an initiation of the blockchain. So we are forming right now 2,800 women and girls in Brazil and in Africa, an introduction to blockchain. Here also in the region, in Caucasus and Central Asia, in Georgia, we have partnered with the University of Caucasus, and we started a program on cybersecurity. And the pilot was done this year, and today we have 6 of the ladies who have completed the course are going to be getting the certification, the graduation today.
Let me ask you about the general idea. Where did the idea to empower 5 million women and girls came from?
Well, in the beginning, I wanted to empower 1 woman, and then 10, and then hundreds and then thousands, and then very quickly we said to myself, well, if you really want to make impact, but lasting impact that can really change the way, become self-sustainable, we have to think big. I think we have to dream big. And I think 5 million, we start really having an impact in changing the course of things in the world. And obviously, I don't do it by myself. I do it with all my team, with the chapters around the world. Today, we have 50 chapters around the world. And by the end in the next 2 years, I would like to expand to over 100. So until 2025, we're going to be expanding. And I think if we only have impact about 1,000 or 5,000 women by country in the next 7 years now, I think we'll be able to reach our goal to 5 million. I think in the last count, our impact report, we were a bit over 300,000. So it's starting slowly, but getting there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope it will grow exponentially after that.
Yes, it will.
Let me ask you this: what is the process like? When did you launch, and how does it work? Do you reach out to people in different countries that would set up chapters, or it's more bottom up process?
It's both ways. So right in the beginning, I didn't know where to start. So I said, well, let's start by first doing an event, a very big event that would highlight the most wonderful women around the world. Give them the spotlight, identify the initiatives, the leaders, the role models that can really inspire other women as well. And so this is why I started. It was in 2018, our very first Women in Tech Global Awards, and ever since this has been growing. And I must say that sometimes I was a little bit frustrated that between the nominees, we didn't have all of the regions that were really represented. So I said, no, if you really want to have a massive representation of the women, we have to be able to do regional awards. So we started with the regional awards last year, and the first time in Caucasus, Central Asia. This is the same way we do with the chapters. We have lots and lots of requests to open chapters. So we try and choose the best person that's going to be leading the country, and some of them it's because they asked to open the chapter, and sometimes we identify people that we really think will be the best fit to be able to grow and represent women in tech in the country.
How did it happen in Georgia? When did you open up chapter here, and what is Georgia's role in the region for women in tech?
Well, Georgia's role in the region, for us, it was the very first country in the region for the women in tech. And it came because I met the right person, Nino. She, by friends of ours in common, she said, well, she's a wonderful woman in tech. And I met with her, and it was just natural, and it was in evidence that she would be the one leading the country, the women in tech. And from there on, we also started expanding. We also in Azerbaijan, and later she's our chapter ambassador who is here today now in Georgia as well. And I think in the course of the year, we want to expand to other countries like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and many others, hopefully in the future.
How does it work? Do chapters unite within some sort of regional chapters, and then there is one chapter that oversees the process, or all of them are kind of separate?
So every chapter, all of them have the same mission, right? We give them like the same objectives and the goals, which obviously is to impact the most women possible. But we like for them to grow the community, because we need to have the feedback of the community of what the needs are. And I think it's very, very important to have a powerful network of women and men allies, because obviously we welcome to people of all genders as well. And then they have to do events, we have to do educational program, because we really want the impact on the ground. And also, obviously, work with local partnerships so they can be self-sustainable, and they can create events and fund the programs as well. So all of them have this kind of the same objective, and we try to create collaborations and synergies in the region so they can really support each other and leverage and get even more bigger projects, bigger programs, bigger initiatives. We all work in a very collaborative way, not only in the region but across all the other continents. We have town halls. We share best practices. Sometimes something that happened maybe in Brazil or in Peru can be a very good idea that could be implemented here or in Japan. So we're really trying to look beyond the borders as well, beyond the region. But then we do have regional directors. So for the whole of the Central Asia and Caucasus region is Nino. She's not only ambassador but also the director of the region. So she overlooks and she makes sure that all the countries are aligned. And obviously, because we have so many chapters, it's important to have regional directors that talk to each other and are in direct contact with us in the headquarters.
One of the very fascinating projects that you have is the Tech Awards, and it is my understanding that this year it will be held for the first time here in Georgia. Right? Could you elaborate a bit on the specifics? What are the criteria? What are the different areas that you nominate people in? And what sort of women have to participate in this award show?
Okay, so I think there are 9 categories. So the first one is it's a new award. It's the Women in Tech Arts Award. It's powered by Amazon Music, because until now we were very techy other categories, and I think we have to put arts into tech as well. Digital art, all kinds of arts. Creativity comes with art. And so we decided to add this Women in Tech Arts Awards. Then we have the Aspiring Teen, which is for the youth. It's very promising. We have the Best Ally, and then it can be a man or a woman. It can be people of, once again, any gender that can apply to that. We have the Startup, Women in Startup, Women in Web3, Global Leadership Award, Most Disruptive Award, and the Lifetime Achievement Award. So we really try to highlight, identify, and celebrate women from the earliest age, the youth, so a teenager, until a woman who has already done remarkable things throughout the career with the Lifetime Achievement, trying to really find women in every single category and in every single different time of their life.
Based on your experience, you've been in the business of empowering women and girls for at least 5 years. What are the main challenges that women and girls all around the world face?
I would say, depending on the region, they've got different challenges, but most of them is having been stick to the mother, right? To the mother role. Like that means that when you are a mother or a family, you have to privilege being a mother and not having a career. I think these are the most difficult things because for men, they can have both, and I think women can have as well. And the second thing would be, so it's mostly on the mindset, right? Today, I think women that want to go into technology or astronaut or any career at all, I think breaking those biases or the stereotypes that the society gives you, those are one of the main barriers, although they have the capacity and the opportunity. It's those mindsets that have to be broken down. And also, when you come into the entrepreneurship role sector, I think getting funding. Women, they don't get funded. We say, women, we already have the power. We don't need to be empowered. We need to be funded. We need money. Because things to go, to create companies, to pay people, to organize, start projects, we need money. And so I think that if companies, if investors, if governments gave women leadership roles and give them access to funding, and broke down more of those stereotypes on what the woman role should be, I think we're on the right way.
What is the future for women in tech? Could you share a vision for the initiative?
So obviously our mission is to empower 5 million women and girls by 2030. How are we going to do this? So first we are going to be launching right now this platform where the women are going to be able to have the tools and all the products necessary to be able to unleash their power, right? So whether it's going to be through networking, have a community support, we have got that, Women in Tech community platform, where they can share things, post things, go make sure that they're going to be they're part of their community in their country and meet with other women from all around the world. It's a collaborative platform. It's like a mixture between Facebook and LinkedIn, I like to say, so that's very nice. So it's very important for them to be able to do that through events. We've got events around the world. Events not only to network, because sometimes we know how important it is, the power of the network, but also events where they're going to be learning, like workshops, different educational programs, meeting people. We've got a talent hub as well. Talent hub is very important because we can educate women, but if you don't get them jobs, it doesn't work. So the talent hub is to find for the companies to find best talent, female talent, and for the women to be able to put forward their CVs so that they can be hired. This is what we want. We're also working on the crowdfunding platform. We've got already working with Acredius on this, which is a financing company in Switzerland, and we've got a license for the whole of Europe, where we're going to be able to have women portfolios, project portfolios, and get them funded through crowdfunding. We're also working on so many different things. Also on the Women in Tech Council, which is very quite an exclusive but very senior leadership positions network. And most of all, we are already working with the École des Ponts et Chaussées in France. We are building a Women in Leadership Board Governance and Innovation certification program, which is equivalent almost to a master, because we want to have, so it's certified by the École des Ponts, which is to make sure that women are certified to be on boards. Because I think once women take on leadership positions, things start to change.
Should we expect more of Women in Tech initiatives in Georgia in the years to come?
Of course. not only in Georgia, but everywhere around the world. Hopefully, in a few years' time, every single country in the region will have a Women in Tech, chapter. And so, if you're watching, if you would like to grow a community, to be part of the community, really just reach out, go to our website, womenintech.org. And then if you put out a message, you're going to come straight to the chapter, to Nino, who's going to be able to answering and see the best way to collaborate.
Well, thank you very much, Ayumi, for your time, for your interest in our country, and for whatever you're doing to empower women and girls all around the world.
Okay, thank you so much.
And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday, 11 a.m. sharp. Before that, follow us on BM.G for more updates on business and economics in Georgia and beyond.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.